What's up, y'all? Black History Month is upon us. Let's do the right thing out there. Welcome. Night on the Grind TV is proud to present Funk from the Front Seat. We're going to ease into it today, y'all. Y'all know how we do. Our special guest today, coming to you live from the Bull City right here in North Kakalaki. Normia Scales is in the house with us. So y'all put your hands together. New York, where you at? New Jersey, what's going on? Delaware, Virginia, say it. Georgia, you in the house. South Carolina. I need y'all to clap your hands to Marvin, y'all. Detroit. What's up, Canada? I love y'all out there. Funk from the Front Seat. Normia is in the house today. Show's being produced by Mr. Markley. Florida. New Orleans. What's up? Kentucky, Oklahoma. Where you at? Utah. Ohio. What's up, Brenda? Go Bengals. Long Island, Bayshore. New York, Staten Island, to Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens. Mercy, mercy me, y'all. What's going on? West Coast, Nevada. Purple love out there to you out there, love. Mexico, como está? Oregon, Portland, North and South Dakota. Where you at? What's going on, y'all? Hawaii, Samoans doing the Humpty Hump. Tokyo, Anyang Haseyo, Japan, China, Dubai, Alaska, Egypt, Cairo, Russia. We don't want no war, y'all. Everybody snap your fingers like this out there. Funk from the Front Seat is upon you. We're going to get funky today. Normia Scales is in the house. Coming in with some Marvin, y'all. Rock back and forth. Dr. Brookenstein, Philly Dilly, Funky Philly's in the house. Texas, where you at? You in the house? Everybody out there, let's put our hands together. Welcome to the show. Normia Scales, produced today by Mr. Mark Lee. So, Normia, we're going to bring you in and see what's going on and see how you doing. How are you today?
I'm well, and you? Well, and you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. You're looking beautiful. Beautiful Black Queen hanging out with us today on our very first show of Black History Month. So welcome and thank you. We're honored and proud to have you. Mr. Mark Lee back there, my producer, keeping it funky, keeping it sassy, keeping it classy, always behind the glassy. I love you, Mark. You're doing your thing back there. Before we get into everything, and I want to welcome everybody to Funk from the Front Seat every Saturday here, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Central Time. And we're doing our thing slowly but surely. I need everybody out there to stay safe. Remember to love each other. This is about peace, love, and harmony. And that's where we're going to keep it, and that's where we're going to take it. Please stay active on the chat lines, and please participate, follow us, and jump in. And if you have comments or quotes or questions you want to add, jump in, and we'll make sure we get them on the screen for everybody. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and welcome Normia to the show. Yes. So how you been doing? How is your family and everybody doing?
Oh, well, by the grace of the Creator, everybody's well.
Awesome.
just trying to navigate through some of the weather up,
Yeah.
up north right about now. But otherwise, everyone's fine.
Good. That's
Mhm.
good. That's good. Yeah, it's been a little hot and cold today. Last
Mhm.
night I was out in a t-shirt. Today, now if I go out, I'm gonna have to put on a coat. So it's been, up and down here. And
Mhm.
obviously, we're praying for all our brothers and sisters up and down the East Coast and Midwest because they getting bombarded. Mark
Yeah.
just told me today that it was snowing in Texas. So I don't know what
Oh.
that's about, but I laughed. I told Mark, well, didn't Texas, not all my friends in Texas, but some people down there want to succeed. So I said, maybe the weather's pissed off at them. I don't know.
Mm.
I said,
Yes.
maybe they get snow because they acted up down there. Um,
Mhm.
how long have you been in North Carolina? Tell us a little background about yourself, because I know you from Chi-Town. So
That's
tell us a little
right.
bit about that, how you got from Chi-Town to here, and a little bit about your background before we get into the recalibrating
Mhm.
and your podcast. So tell us a little bit
Okay.
about
So I've been here actually approaching, well, since February of 11, February 4th, February 13th of
it.
2011. So this is approaching our 11th year.
Okay.
My son was the driving force into relocating from Chicago during during a prior chapter, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
down here to the Triangle area.
Okay.
And background, it's vast and varied. Communications is definitely my front running. What should I say? One of my. It's hardwired in my DNA, I should say. So it's the
Yeah.
driving force for everything that I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Communication is a very interesting word when it comes to how we communicate. And we're going to get into that a little bit. So as you make your way from Chicago
Mhm.
to this rural place, and how I felt when I told you we had lunch right now. I said, hey, New York to here is like, what I'm saying? So how did you adjust? Tell us a little bit about your adjustment period, because I know it's a little bit of an adjustment. So tell us a little bit about that and how you navigated that, just so others that may want to make that move can have some kind of idea.
Well, just for starters, I basically I'm very much team North Carolina. The Triangle, the state of North Carolina, you can't go wrong. There's something for everyone. So for those of you all who are listening, North Carolina clearly has my vote. So you asked me, you said, how did I end up here?
No, I was saying, like, how did you navigate when you first moved here? Obviously,
Yeah.
there's a recalibrating, as
Mhm.
to quote your word, of how coming from Chicago to here.
Mhm.
So I know I had to do that coming from New York to here.
Oh, yes. So it was culture shock. It was culture shock. I fell in love with it. It was more like love at first sight, first bite,
Okay.
if you like wanted to put it that way.
Hmm.
Um, I had to lower my guard, being, immersed in the North all of my life. Well, the vast majority of my life. I had
Yeah.
to get acclimated to the warmth and hospitality of the
Yeah.
native Southern of this. Well, I would say native Southerners, but Southerners as a whole down here. I
Yeah.
wasn't used to, coming from New York, just that northern guardedness that there's tendency for most northerners to possess.
Yeah.
I had to purge that. It took time. I want to say uh, it didn't take too long though. Within my first year, I think I pretty much had lowered my gaze. I learned hard and heavy and fast that it's okay. I'm like, well, no one has to have an agenda to say hello and to greet you. And if you're walking down the street, I was strolling my son down the street because he was small at the time. And for someone to say, hey, do you need a ride? Need a ride? So the first reaction is, what's the angle? There is
Yeah.
no angle.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's good. And I like to hear that because everyone has a different experience about certain things, and that's really nice to hear, because North Carolina isn't all that bad. For certain things, yes, maybe for certain businesses, yes, maybe. Hi, Sama, how you doing, sweetie? Nice to see you. I missed you. I'm just saying hi to certain people, Nomia, as people chime in. Dr. Brookenstein, love you as always, bro. But yeah, it is a little different for everyone, and there is a little something here for everyone. So that's really
Yes.
nice to hear, because a lot of times, people will just go, totally the opposite way on the move. And I'm
Mhm.
glad that your spirit and your light is so angelic. When I met you, I kind of felt that way. I was like, wow. And I even
Mhm.
told you that,
Thank
you
you.
have
Mhm.
something very special.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I can tell the audience how you and I met through a
Mhm.
mutual friend, Chrissy Key Rollins. Shout out
Mhm.
Chrissy. She's on in a couple of weeks. And tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about how you met Chrissy and joined that group, and how you and I connected.
Oh, absolutely. So Chrissy, kindred sister, as I refer to other like-minded women or females that I meet, I refer to her as one of my kindred sisters. We're a part of this 1099 networking ladies group.
Okay.
It's not exclusive to North Carolina, but it's embedded, very, very embedded in North Carolina. We're in all different locales within North Carolina and even outside of the state of North Carolina. But I had the pleasure of meeting her by virtue of that group.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Chrissy and I have been knowing each other now well over a year. And we met through another mutual friend of ours, Tish. But Chrissy, she hooks me up. And
Mhm.
obviously everybody that knows me knows I keep my purple on me all the time. So she's my crystal lady, man. I love Chrissy. So yeah, she said, I got this beautiful woman, this wonderful woman that I want you to meet. And I need you to reach out to her, and she stayed on me about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure. So she, yeah, I think she'd be great for your show. She's got a lot of great information. And sure enough, she was absolutely right. We're hanging out with Normia Vasquez Scales today. You guys welcome. Please stay active on the chat line, because this woman's getting ready to drop some serious information. Your mission, and I was reading it, implore synchronized thinkers to acquire
Yes.
optimal fulfillment, utilizing your crafted leap of faith and
Mhm.
three-dimensional perspective philosophy to yield and sustain um, carpe diem ideology.
Mhm.
And that's a deep, deep, deep. I did my homework on you. I think I
Yes.
said it right, but I did my homework on you. That's deep. Okay.
Mhm.
So we're
Mhm.
going to scale that from the top.
Okay.
Tell us why you started the Recalibrating the Scales radio show and what it's about.
Okay. So for as long as I can remember, since I was in the single digits, living in Chicago, I've been completely enamored with voice. I would imitate voice personalities because if you haven't gathered already, I'm actually by nature an introvert. Uh, an introvert, ambivert. I'm just like a low dose version of a Prince, of Michael Jackson. God rest their souls. So I'm more of that persona, which is why audio really, really appealed to me. So I'm rehearsing in secret, in private, as a little girl, um, in vast and very dark corners of our residence back then, and I never, never, never let go of that aspiration. I've always wanted to do radio. I've wanted to. I've had an. I still would love to aspire. I'm an inspiring radio personality. Wink, wink, nod, nod for all of those listening out there.
Hey, there's a
But
lot of people. You never know. Somebody got you. Trust me.
so I had a very good friend of mine back in 2017. A lot transpired within that past year, commencing in 2016 in particular. 2016 was the catalyst behind me unloading the bucket list. No more deferring anything. No more deferred aspirations. I'm like, okay, my son and I, let's take that a Caribbean cruise. We've always done land vacations. Let's do a sea vacation. It had to do with the loss of my son's father, which was my ex-husband,
Sorry to
in
hear that.
2016. So it's I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But that was a catalyst for unloading the bucket list. So I published, self-published a chapbook. It was another aspiration. I said I want to publish something in this lifetime. So I managed to do that, and then so that left the radio or voice aspiration. So courtesy of one of my best friends and who's in California he said, why don't you start your own podcast? I'm like, I've heard of a podcast, but I'm not really familiar. So it was a lot simpler than what I thought. At the time, I used Blog Talk Radio. It was simply stated, very easy to navigate, and that's what led to that endeavor. I wanted to coach people conventionally. I've always had a lot to say, being an introvert, but for many years, I never really vocalized it. So this is my opportunity to vocalize it mainstream, full blast, to exercise, to pull, to get me out of my shell per se, which my comfort zone is I mentioned, is behind the scenes. It is,
Cool. I
but
want to ask you something before we go too far. You mentioned the book. Tell us about the
yes.
book and the name of the book and where they can get it because I didn't see that part. I wasn't sure, but tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so it's volume one. I need to go ahead and pump out volume two. It's called Pardon My Vernacular Wordsmith at Large, Verbal Tango. It's available on Amazon.com. You
Wow.
could follow it. I know
Okay.
that's a very lengthy title. I'm a very long-winded.
We'll have
Uh,
Mark find it. He'll pull it up.
but it's under my name. If you Google Normia Vasquez Scales, it'll come up. And
Awesome.
there's some other collaborative published works that I had the pleasure of participating in that same time frame, 2017. And this was a women's
Okay.
book compilation project. I don't know if you wanted me to go into greater depth now, but we could definitely talk about it now or offline. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that was an aspiration of one of my best friends out of Chicago, who wanted 100 women to collaborate and co-write books. So that was the craze. It's still ongoing, as I understand. And I contributed a story on 2 volumes. So those are
Wow.
all also on Amazon.
Kudos to you. See, it's always the
Um,
quiet ones behind the scenes that be pushing that, pumping that
it's
work
the
out.
quiet
Kudos.
ones. Yes.
Because see, you're an inspiration to a lot of people, and that's why I was
Mhm.
enamored with getting you on this show because again,
Mhm.
you know, we are all part of American history, world history, Black history. Every day now is Black history, and we're going to touch base on that in a minute. But what you're doing for women of color, inspiring, young women like my daughters, if they watch this show, is really, really dope. And I'm so blessed and grateful to have you, and I want you to come back many, many times as we peel back these layers. We're going to really get to know how you see things and how you feel because your opinion matters. It's important. It's very, very important. Your education, your background, and how you see the world matters on this show. And I just want you to know that. For everybody out there watching, please follow her. Please go look up her books. Please support this woman. Funk from the Front Seat right here every Saturday, 12 p.m., 9 on the Grind TV. We bring you nothing but the best. And thank you, Sonia, and everybody out there watching. And Sama, it was so good to see you sign on too. You guys are dope, man. David Brooks, you guys are dope, man. Appreciate y'all. So let's break it down. Recalibrating. What does that word
Yes.
mean to you?
That is recalibrating the scales. But recalibrating, that has to do, just another lavish word, when you think just for resetting, reconfiguring, for lack of a better phrase or word. And contemplating. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. Go ahead. No.
And when I was with another best friend of mine, also out of California, we were brainstorming. What do we call this? What do we call this platform? We're probing because coaching was at the forefront of it, or coaching unconventionally, because I do carry a life coach certification, and this was just a way to do it unconventionally, as I mentioned. So we're brainstorming, and I said, she's like, well, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I'm all about balance. I'm all about helping people to GPS track, as for back of and to GPS track, acquire, and sustain some sort of balance in all facets, because let's face it, there's a lot of deficiency right about now. I mean, I even struggled with it myself, being a huge proponent of it. But Yes. So I'm like, okay, well, recalibrating. And I said, oh, recalibrating the scales, play on my last
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
So
It's a
we
natural.
locked in the domain name. And
It's a
that's where
natural. Yeah, it's a
it
natural.
was brought to fruition. Mhm.
Yeah, it's natural.
Mhm.
It is funny because your show coincided with one of the biggest reboots or recalibrations we have had to
Oh,
see. Isn't that
yes.
ironic? Did you ever think about that?
I hadn't thought about it. But yes, the past 2 years has been just that for droves, for
Yes,
magnitude,
yes,
myself
yes,
included, myself
yes,
included. Yes, yes.
yes,
I'm still
yes. You,
streamlining.
it's almost like every day is a brand new day. Well, I don't know about
Mhm.
you, and I don't know about my audience, and you guys out there. We all support each other on the funk threads, and thank God I got all these Facebook friends and people that
Mhm.
I love, man. Because
Yeah,
I tell you, it would be very hard because every day we wake up in this world, we have to essentially recalibrate,
we do.
and
Yeah.
it's just it's tough out there. When you look at the state of young Afro American women and
Yes.
minority women, Latino brother women and Asian women and mixed women, whatever. When you look at that segment of the population, right,
Mhm.
and you apply one of your mission statements to that, right? How do you think, how receptive have they been in receiving your wonderful gift of life and light?
Well, I'd have to. I've been fortunate that the feedback that I've received, people have been receptive to the messages. Um,
Excellent.
the intention was for the listeners. My platform is very it's guest centered, and it's of course it's audience centered, of course. Um, so the messages are for them exclusively. If there's something that's been weighing on me, if there's something maybe that I've experienced personally, or just privy to, from
Hmm.
another member of my circle, I just feel inclined to share it. I'm a sharer of information,
Yeah.
probably to a fault. And but yes, I've received, I received positively overwhelming feedback.
Well, as you should, because I listened to the podcast. Yo, it's dope. So, the link that you sent me and everything, and I was like, wow, this is very interesting coming from a completely different perspective. Um, you mentioned before
Mhm.
about no aspirations or the bucket list, right?
Yes.
And if you were talking to our audience out there, how would you tell them to go about trying to implement some things that maybe they didn't get a chance to do yet and they're holding back for whatever the reasons? Could be economics, could be whatever, right? How would you encourage our audience to go ahead and empty their bucket list?
Mhm. This is almost emotional. And that question, it evokes some emotion for me. Because I know, and we've all bore witness to this, particularly mankind in the past 2 years, how life happens quickly. That's what I say. Life happens quickly. So I try very hard not to wait, to defer things. You don't want to be too hasty, and you don't want to be too impulsive, finding that. But I'm not an impulsive person by any stretch of the imagination. But if I have an intuitive, no, I'm very intuitive. And if I have that fault, if the voice within, that voice, that intuitive voice, when you hear it, please listen to it, obey it. That would be my first piece of advice, aside from, and just bearing in the forefront of thoughts that life does happen quickly. There's so much which has happened within the past 60 days, not just unique to me, but to people within my circle, that I felt inclined to act. There have been losses, there have been casualties, there have been feats, and there have been triumphs. But for the losses, have spurred me to want to keep in close contact with people, to take nothing and no one for granted. Um, those would be that, just to keep it light and keep it simply stated: take nothing and no one for granted. If you are in the
Yeah.
position to position
Yeah.
yourself to move towards something, to acquire something, to manifest something quickly. Um, do the work. Faith without works is dead. Move your feet. Be prayerful. Be intentional. Make sure your intentions are pure, and work on manifesting that.
Yeah. I'm very big on that word you just said, the last word you said,
Mhm.
manifestation. I
Manifestation.
think that, and you know, you and I had talked about this privately about the third eye, um,
Yeah.
and how sometimes we're doing things to block our own intentions. And I speak with another friend of mine about this too, about we're blocking our own self because we're inside our own head too much, you know.
Yes.
And you know, now yeah, that's why I was gonna get deep with you on this. Right. How do we, as spiritual beings having a physical experience, stay? And I know this is broad, but you can broad it
I know this
or
is
narrow
broad,
it.
but you can broad it.
How do we stay out of our own
Mhm,
head?
mhm. Ooh, you're segueing into that topic that you and I embarked upon, that masculine and feminine energy. Um, well, being in your head, well, that's a very forward-driven, action-oriented masculine trait. Okay, so that would call for, if you want to get out of your head, if you want to get into your heart per se, then you want to tap into more of the feminine energy. That's not saying that you have to become feminine. You and I understand this. Um, and I like to you say that when I convey this, I really it's sometimes hard to difficult to articulate, but you and I are synchronized in thought. Um, I would say get acquainted with masculine traits and versus feminine traits, which masculine energy does. It's action oriented, it's logical, it's beginning, and it's definitive. Feminine energy is circular. We like to swirl. It's more creative. It's about being more so than doing. Okay, resting, feeling, emotional. So those are more, tapping into those that feminine qualities. This might be a bit of a bias, and I don't want to step on any toes
Nah,
for
hey, this is your show.
your male listeners
No,
out
this
there.
is your show. Yo, you do you. This is all organic. You do say whatever you want. You got it like that.
But it's like I said, it's trying to articulate this in a way. It's like, no, I'm not suggesting that you change genders, that you change literally change your sexuality. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's about energy. um, Feminine energy is, and it rests. It's about being and feeling and receiving. Okay, you want to be more in your heart, then you want, and as opposed to in your head. That's would be the way to go,
Right,
to
right.
do those things, to tap into. So less action, more resting, more being. Hopefully maybe that translates a little better.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that we were in this malaise or malaise of lockdown, a lot of
Mhm.
people had a chance to really look within and fix a few things? Do you think it was even though it was a time of horrible tragedy, and for
Mhm.
all those that lost people, God bless you. You know, I lost somebody in my family, but do you think it also gave us a chance to look within and really, really try to fix a few things and tweak a few things if we could?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's been a lot of awakening.
Yeah,
People are still streamlining. There's a lot of reevaluating of value systems. This has to do with our state of affairs in the employment world, in the corporate sector, in the employment sector. People realize what can be accomplished within a state of an emergency. We realized, and I've been
yeah,
saying, for example, working remotely, being educated remotely. I've been saying for years, because I've been working remotely in excess of 7 years now. Why haven't we, by and large, as a society, why have we not been um, set up to do this? Why are we not mainstream working and educating remotely? It took a pandemic for that to hit home, and as a society, we've accomplished. Mankind, people as a whole, have proven what can be done from the parameters of their own environments. So they're saying, I don't want to go. Some are anxious to go back to the brick and mortar, and some are saying, no, I think I'd rather remain in my own environment, my own home, my own element, I like peeping in and being a part of being able to chime in and see what my children are doing if they're working, if they're being educated remotely. I like being for my children being able to avail of me more. I like to be able to, I like to be able to diversify my tasks and still accomplish what needs to be accomplished for the employer. It's
Amen.
just a
Amen.
form of balance. So
Yeah.
that's probably why we're seeing such an upset in
Yeah.
this great resignation of
Yeah,
ours.
yeah, yes. I heard they got a name for it now. You're right. Now let me ask you this, and this is just me asking a question.
Mhm.
Um, do you think we have to have a balance of what you just said, which is all perfectly, eloquently said, right?
Mhm.
To influx our still much needed loving, touching, feeling, seeing, socialization part.
Mhm.
Do you think there needs to be a balance? Because being in the house, yes, we discovered all these things and we're able to work from home and see our children and yada yada yada. But also there has to be some type of interaction, physical feeling, going,
Okay.
and just in general, shopping or whatever. Do you think that we're struggling? And the reason I ask this question is because it seems like there's so much negative energy out there. I personally think we're struggling with, okay, we were in the cave and now we're back out in the street. And I think people
Mhm.
can't find their stride like they used to before the thing happened. What do you think about that?
Yes, yeah, we're seeing quite a bit of that. I do believe that organic social interaction is important. It is critical. Um, I would say it's just having the option to me in so many different respects within and beyond the state of affairs is imperative. I mean, this is quote unquote the land of choice. Um, people should have the option of working remotely or in brick and
Amen.
mortar, and
Amen.
for things not to be mandated.
Yeah.
You know,
Amen. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
And I get that. I like, it's for me, it's never been a political thing. It's always about choice. I believe choices is one of the biggest things we have here in this country. I respect other people's opinions and choices and decisions, as I would hope that they would respect mine. But we're hanging out today with the lovely Normia Vasquez Scales. She has her own podcast, the Recalibrating the Scales radio show. We're going to ask you to hang out with us and come back on the other side. We got to pay a few bills. We're going to run this quick commercial, P Funk Radio, and everybody out there watching. So you hang tight, sit back, relax. And on the other side, we're going to come back and get into this love conversation and this thing about how you see we should be going and going forward. So Mr. Mark Lee, and then my producer Mark Lee is going to come on because I know you leaving at 1. You got a heart out. So I'm going to bring him on with 5 minutes left, and we're going to let him chat you up with a question. He always has a really great question. So we're going to run this commercial right now. Everybody sit back, hang tight, relax, and enjoy Keith Jackson right here.
Hey, this is Keith Jackson with P-Funk Radio, inviting you to check out my brother Zach Robinson with Funk from the Front Seat. Saturdays, 12 noon on the East Coast and 9 a.m. on the West Coast. It all happens on 9 on the Grind TV and also on YouTube. Great guest, great conversation each and every Saturday. That's Funk from the Front Seat with Zach Robinson on 9 on the Grind TV and YouTube. Check him out.
Thank you. And we back on the other side. Now, before we get any further, Zen Water. Listen, I need a sponsorship from you guys because I've been drinking your water ever since I did my fast, and I love your water. It's the best water out there. So if you guys are out there watching from Zen Water, make sure you hit me up because I really, really do like to promote your product. And I love the fact that it comes in this nice, really big thing, and it's just the right size. I drink about 4 of these a day, and it's the cheapest water, and it's non-alkaline, so it's very, very healthy for you, 9.5 pH. So Zen Water, you got my proxy, hit me up. And also another sponsor we picked up last week, Love TNN. excess energy drinks, and I know Dr. Brookenstein knows a little bit about these. My man out there loves TNN. Thank you for sponsoring the show. I appreciate everything you do. Obviously Boosie and Patty, Club Funk and Tea ambassadors, Dr. Brookenstein, Pat, Curtis, and George for all your artwork. Joe Keys, I love you, Joe. Q&A Entertainment, Afterglow 92416, Brooke Clagett, doing a thing, and I'm gonna see you in 2 weeks at the P-Funk concert. And David Webb up in Ohio, the Funk Chronicles. I love you guys. Tony Cam, HJ Entertainment, Kane and Jams, the Nappyhead Funk Army, and everybody out there watching, as always, supporting this show. And I got to give a special shout out to P-Funk Radio. You guys are really pushing on it. We stand. DJ Godzilla pushed it on Wednesday, and Funkster Jones pushes on Saturday, and of course Friday night on the Thread. You guys are amazing. And I just appreciate all the love you guys are pushing that song straight to the top, and I appreciate you. And Mr. Mark Lee, my producer, is always on point when it comes to our guests. And so this show would not run without Mr. Mark Lee. So Mark, thank you. Normia Vasquez Scales. Okay, now here we are, 2022. Oh, you still there? You froze? Oh, you there? Okay, yeah. Here we are, 2022. And the feminine side as well as the masculine side, right? And I want you to elaborate a little bit about what you meant when you said that. Bye, sweetie.
Okay. So the
I lost your
masculine.
Okay, there you go.
There? So feminine
I hear
versus masculine energy traits or characteristics.
Yeah.
So some of those, just to plainly, masculine energy by and large is more action oriented. This is why, which is typically more befitting to males, but not necessarily. It's not gender specific. Okay. There's a tendency. Well, as you and I well know, for there to be that trend of men as a whole, but not exclusively. It can apply to women, but as a whole, men do possess these characteristics. Masculine energy men, action oriented. It does. Masculine energy does. It's always doing. It's a verb. It's definitive. There's a starting and an end point. It's logical. Women, and just to state a few characteristics, not necessarily as emotional as they are logical. Okay. Not coincidentally, feminine energy, which typically is more befitting to women, but not exclusively. It doesn't pertain to the female gender. Okay. It swirls, it's circular. It's, there's a tendency for us, for women to get, it's not necessarily as point A, point B, definitive loss. We can, we get lost in time, emotional, as you've heard me indicate already. It's receiving energy versus doing energy. It rests. It is. Feminine energy is. Masculine energy does. In a nutshell.
Yeah. Why do you think that women of color now, and this is all nationalities, women of color now are getting their due, but not getting their pay? You know what I'm saying? And this is across the board, because I know, women of color, minority, obviously we got, first biracial black vice president, and maybe that was a Freudian slip. It's like now, yes, of course, you're getting your due, long overdue, well overdue. We know the history, but it still seems to me, as I crunched some numbers the other night, and I was looking at the disparity in pay still. Yes, for instance, people on ESPN or news, whatever. Why do you think the powers that be are just not paying women what you guys are worth?
Oh, that's a burning question, honestly.
It bothers me. It makes me angry.
Why are women not being paid? What this has been a lifelong issue. Well, because men and women are not equal. It's not to say that women, and I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash for that. We're not equal. Unfortunately, I hate to be the
And we know what
first
you mean.
vocal.
Everybody knows what you mean.
We
How
never
you're
were
seeing,
designed,
yes.
and maybe that plays a role in it. I'm not saying that it's right, but we're
Yeah.
not equal. I think that there should be some equality in that regard.
So
Equal
do I.
work, equal pay. Um, but no, there's always been a tip scale. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the patriarchs, the men, no, I shouldn't say patriarchs, masculine society, men typically have just been the front runners when it
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
to things. So
Yeah.
that I'm pretty sure has a lot to do with it.
Sama, one of our watchers and one of my friends, Sama, she said, it's a deep question. She's gonna come back and get to it, but she's deep, and I'm trying to get her on the show too. You would like my friend Sama because she has some very good insight, and the reason why I bring this stuff up, I have daughters, and I gotta fight now for them. Like you had to fight, and somebody had to fight for you, the Shirley Chisholms of the world. I got to fight now for them because I see it across the board, and it does bother me. Not so much in the entertainment field,
Yeah.
but politics, business, corporations. Look what just happened to Whoopi Goldberg, for instance. I got to load this question in because it's the elephant in the room. Okay. Now, her statement, and I read the statement and I watched the statement. So her statement, to paraphrase, was that the Holocaust was about the Aryan race being superior over the Jewish race. And they were called races at the time, I guess, because that's just the way they termed it. But to my understanding, I don't think she was talking about race, like black against white, because obviously there were very few minorities over there. I think she was just saying the Aryans hated the Jews. And she
Mm.
used the word instead of, like race. It was like, hey, well, they weren't racist because
Mm-hmm.
she was applying it to how minorities here are treated as racist. And then
Mm-hmm.
it came out, oh, whoop, you got to apologize. Oh, you shouldn't have said this, racist, that. Again, cancel society. Because I know what the woman meant, and everybody with a brain knew, right? And she gets first day of Black History. We got to like dog Whoopi. I'm like, come on, man, what are we doing? We got like snakes and scoundrels running the whole country. What are we doing? What mess with Whoopi for, right? So what is your opinion on that?
Oh boy. Okay. So just to ensure that I'm answering the question. So you're saying, because I saw a glimpse of that feed, but I
Yeah.
didn't read the story. She received a lot of backlash because she made a comment. It was misconstrued, basically,
Yes.
because people were under the impression that she was speaking of black and white race, but she wasn't speaking of that. You said she was speaking in terms of the Jewish versus the Aryans. So now your question again for that
I was
remaining.
saying because they the Aryan Germans superior were calling themselves the superior race.
Right, right.
So the my thing was, why are we messing with Whoopi over semantics over a word that everybody knew she didn't mean on the
Yeah.
first day of Black History? That bothered me.
Wow. Okay.
That's what I'm
I
talking
see.
about. It's almost like it was set up for that to happen, to
Hmm.
make her look bad. You know what I mean? And she's done so much good, you
Yeah.
know. And
Okay.
that was my thing. I just wanted to hear your opinion about it. How you think she was treated?
Hmm. It definitely. I think there's definitely a reason for it. But we're not going to get into Mercury retrograde.
Hey, get
Um,
into it. Get into it. Get into it. That's what this show is for.
I think it's a classic case of something completely distorted and blown out of proportion. And
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde had its name, abominable head, and name written all over it. So that's what I had to do with it. It was something taken probably out of context. That they've taken it, gone left with it, and that was not the intention.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. And
So,
then she has to come out and apologize, which she did, and then she had to explain it,
mhm.
And I'm like, okay, we got synagogues being defamed. We got historical Black colleges, being bomb threatened. And we're talking about something that is so irrelevant in the grand scheme of things,
Right.
And you're right, Sama. You're absolutely right. She is real. That's right. That's why I brought it up, Sama, because I felt it needed to be said. Um, yeah, exactly. She did spoke and apologize. Exactly. And they should have left it that. My thing was, Sonia, is that I don't know why we're not focusing on who's blowing up the schools. That's my thing. You know what I'm saying? Because literally, this is true. You know where we live at, Nomia. I live 5 minutes from NC Central. You know, I'm like right here. You know, and it's like, come on now. Why are we in Texas, in Florida or Texas? I'm not sure. They were defaming the synagogues. And they're now training these people to run out of their service if something happens, you know? And I'm like, yo, where are we at a country? Why can't people open their third eye, Nomia? Can you help them? Can you please help these people? Can you help them see, my dear?
Why can't people? I think it's a lot easier. Boyd, we're saying it even in the state of affairs, the pandemic. It's a lot easier for, well, cognitive dissonance has a lot to do with it. Ignorance has a lot to do with it. It's very difficult for people just to stare truth in the face.
Yeah.
Truth and authenticity. I struggle. And then when you are being brutally, not necessarily disrespectfully honest or authentic, then it's questioned. It's definitely bitten me a number of times. It's bitten me, and seeking out new opportunities because people can't handle They can't handle the truth. Can't handle
it.
They can't handle transparency.
Jack Nicholson. I love it.
They don't. It's the people. They say, "I want you to tell me the truth. I want you to be honest. I want you to be that." But do they really?
Yeah.
Do they really? That's a question for you.
Yeah. As a leader, and we're gonna bring Mark in a minute. As a leader and a entrepreneur, and hey George DeFuncovinci, how you doing? As a leader and an entrepreneur and a powerful woman doing your own thing, with no one's help, and sponsoring yourself, I'm going to see if I can help you find some other people to help sponsor your thing too, because I'm starting to move up a little inch here and there. So if I run into some people that I think that can help you, I definitely will. And I want to have you on the show many, many times. This is just part one. But as a leader and a Black woman in a society that is changing rapidly, right? Where do you see the role of the Afro-American woman, Asian woman, Latino woman, Arabic woman, 5 years from now? Where do you see that role in education? Because I think that's where we have to start.
Where do I see that role in education?
Yes.
In terms of the
in terms of letting women completely take over the educational system that men have completely disembodied, from college to elementary school to whatever. And it doesn't mean homeschool or regular school. It just means that who's running the show.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, so is the question, do I foresee that happening?
Yes. Do you see that 5 years from now? Do you see it getting better? Because right now, our educational system, frankly, it sucks.
Oh boy, you really hit home with that, because we're homeschoolers. I believe I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-choice when it comes to many things. When it comes to, hey, to each his own. Everyone's decisions are vast and varied. What's good for the goose is good for the ganderer. What's good for one is not good for the other. I'm getting off topic.
No, you're good. You're good.
We are seeing. I do believe we're seeing some evolution. But if you are speaking of public education,
yes,
then as you and I well know, and this is not coming from a place of pessimism. It is what it is. It was never. It's a flawed design from the start.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
We are homeschooling.
Yeah.
I was a formal educator myself. I think I omitted that. But I was a formal educator. I was a reading language arts instructor, a substitute teacher before that. I've seen from the inside out, even in the so-called creme de la creme school district, Chapel Hill Carpo City Schools. Got to put you on blast, Chapel Hill Carpo City Schools. Not what it's hyped up to be. That's a subject within itself. That's an episode within itself.
Yes,
Some
it is.
people who are awake and are waking up within and beyond this pandemic are beginning to see that it's not what all. It's not all. I waited when my son was in Chapel Hill Carbo City Schools for someone to jump out the cave. Okay, because we moved from across the country, from Chicago to here, um, chose this particular area for the school district. And every year, for at least 2 or 3 years, I waited for someone to jump out the cave to say, okay, what is so stellar about this school district?
Yeah.
I discovered early on, and I prefer to be the sniff and scurry versus the hem and haw. That's who moved my cheese. But what I discovered was people have a tendency in this school district in particular to confuse or muddle superior education with having exceptional resources and tools and bells and whistles. You have the smart boards, you have the technology, you have all of the gadgets for the students, for the student body, for faculty, staff, and so forth. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the education is exceptional.
I agree. I agree.
Especially when you have a vast influx, a vast exodus of veteran teachers and a vast influx of inexperienced new teachers. I was one, so I can attest to that.
Right, right. Yes. And that's why I wanted to bring that up because, again, I'm on the PTA down here. And, I go to the city council meetings for the school board. I fight for more than 2 plumbers in the district, things like that. I fight for more money for the teachers and the bus drivers. We haven't had those meetings live, but we're doing them virtual still. So again, I'm only saying this because I know you were, and I wanted your opinion about it because you have very good insight about it. And again, we're hanging out with Nomia Vasquez Scales on Funk from the Front Seat. You have the truth, the dope, the straight dope, and like I said, it's pro-choice, homeschool or not. I just think that more women, more educated women, should be running the whole country's school, as far as like what we do. Because the reason I'm saying this is because, and I told you this, we do a segment where we're doing our own Black History segment on this show. We started that 2 months ago, and I'm appalled that they're taking this stuff right out of the school books, right out. Some things that they don't want. That's appalling to me. That is like insulting. That first of all, my generation, you taught us all lies, and now the truth finally comes out, and now you're going to take it out so the younger people can't learn. I think that is the most despicable, appalling things. The library, books used to be the sacred place. They weren't Republican or Democrat. They were just books. Everybody went there. You go to the library, pick out a book. You know what I'm saying? It had no red or blue on it. Now we to the point where we done mess with that. That's the last place you could go, have peace and quiet, and actually get information. Like you said, you're a communicator. And I'm so glad you spoke very eloquently on that. Normia, I know you got about 5 minutes left. I wish you could stay longer. Mr. Mark Lee scratching at the glass back there. He shaved for you. Every time there's a beautiful woman coming on, Mark gets all dandied up. He don't care about me. He don't shave and cut his hair for me, but he damn sure did it for you. So here he is, Mr. Mark Lee. Come on in, Mark. See, watch. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
You causing trouble as always.
Look at him. Look at him.
That haircut was about a week and a half ago. And
yeah, right. You got that haircut yesterday.
You just causing total trouble and everything. I was thoroughly enjoying the conversation, listening to y'all and everything, and definitely Nomia brought up a couple of things that were very interesting, and I'd love to hear her talk about even further because actually I've been involved in the testing environment, and definitely Zach knows that, and definitely we know that can be problematic in and of itself, and definitely I'm glad to see that you are a fan of homeschooling. But the two questions that came to my immediate mind was your thoughts about how much we have become overly dependent as a system on standardized testing and things along those lines. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, and also your thoughts about race relations, because definitely Zach alluded to it, but we know a lot of times we think about it in the sense of the South and what people perceive as racism in the South. What I didn't tell you when I first saw you and everything was that I have actually gone to school in Milwaukee. So I went to college at Marquette. So I do know that there is some racism that exists in the Midwest as well. So I was just wondering your thoughts about
Yes.
how this racial politics also isn't just strictly a Southern thing, but it can exist in places like the Midwest. Matter of fact, there's a group similar to the Klan that exists out of the Midwest called the
Mhm.
Comitatus and things of that nature. So I'm just wondering some of your thoughts having
Yes.
grown up in that environment and all of that. And last but not least, I did see that you had done some work on a station that I'm part of, which is WCOM. So I'm just going to throw that out as well.
Oh, yes, 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 it is. I need to crack out another episode. All right. So the first question you were asking me about, okay, about racism, South
Yes.
versus North.
Yes.
Oh boy, what a fallacy that is. I have friends. Um, they're older. They're older. 60s or so that will not come south. I don't want to say the Mason-Dixon line, but they said, I don't go south of the Mason-Dixon line because of their preconceived notions, because of what transpired in the past. My response is just as you've stated. Newsflash, Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the country. I'm not going to speak
Mhm.
on New York. I can't really speak on New York, but I can
Same.
attest to Chicago, where everyone has their neighborhood. We have Ukrainian Village, we've got Chinatown, you've got Pilsen, which is predominantly Latino, you've got Inglewood, which is evolving but predominantly Black. You've got what was, I don't know what it is now, Beverly Hills was predominantly Irish. You've got, I mean, the list goes on. There is Little Italy. I mean, there is a sector for every ethnicity. Skokie, at least at the time, like, vast and varied Indian. I mean, the list goes on. So, how much more segregated and racism can you be? Um, I believe that it's more covert in the North. I would rather for someone, it may be a little bit more in your face in the South, but me being team transparency, I would rather you be in my face and tell me, we really don't want your kind here. Thank you for letting me know, giving me an indication. I could take my business somewhere else. We know what's what here in the South. Okay. Yes, people are hospitable, they smile and they're friendly and all of that, but as a whole, I think it's much more covert in the North. As for, it was another question. Was it education?
It was about education and about the standardized testing.
Oh, what an Achilles heel. I've always, my whole life, struggled with the notion of standardized testing. I do not believe that that is the best measure of intelligence, because I was one of these students. So I'm so happy you asked that question. We need to stop teaching to the test.
Mhm.
We need to teach common sense. We need to teach logic. We need to teach more application, real world topics. We need to reintroduce things that were removed from the school district, public education, home economics. Okay. You
Yep.
Mhm.
got a generation of students that don't even know how to do laundry. They
Yeah.
don't know how to communicate with each other. They don't know how to have an organic conversation. I think I'm going to stick around a little longer. Okay.
Thank you.
I can
I
stick
knew
around a
we'd
little
get
longer
you. Boom.
because you hit some hot buttons. I'm actually kind of swelling up a little bit about
You
this
should.
because
I
those
told
are
you you'd have fun.
thorn in my side topics. That is ignorant, that whole North and South notion. Racism is everywhere, but bottom line is more covert in the North. Boom. Okay, so next, and we're talking about standardized testing. You have exceptional students. Okay, students that do the work, students that study. They may not be able to absorb and retain the information at a glance. Okay, there's some students that I've had the pleasure of sitting side by side at on every level, collegiate, post secondary, primary. That could just I was not one of those students. I was a very good student, but I was not a good test taker. I had to learn how to take tests later in life. I would freak out, I would panic, you know, and then I would blow the test. I blew the SATs. I blew the AZTs, not because I didn't know it. I was not a good test taker. So what are we measuring here? That's not measuring intelligence. That's putting children under pressure, unnecessary pressure to ask some questions. So you asked, there was another question that you posed.
Well, I have to think about what that
I
was,
think it
but
was
as
another.
you were talking, I had to. Well, I did mention the whole thing about the connection to the radio station and everything. But outside of that, and it kind of
Oh,
falls into the other question that I just asked about race and race relations and everything. Sometimes I wonder, and I've had this conversation with Zach and other friends of mine. Aren't we sometimes our own worst enemies because sometimes we get caught up in this divide and conquer mentality. I did see that you have like a Latin last name, and I do know that sometimes even when I've talked to friends of mine that are working for folks of Indian descent, they will sit there and complain about the things that they find at fault within that Asian population and not find ways of working at a common goal and a common interest. But I'd love to know your thoughts about this because I've had some conversations with friends of mine that are African American women and even European American women that will talk about the negative aspects of whatever the other culture is. And I was just wondering your thoughts about that.
okay. So, okay, just to uh, clarify. So you want my thoughts on? Explain again. Explain again. Just to make sure. I
Kind
want
of
to make
how,
sure I answer you
yeah,
correctly.
sometimes we get this divide and conquer kind of mentality that other societies put on it. So it's kind of like putting the Hispanics against the blacks against the Asians, and things of that nature. And sometimes I think we fall
Mhm.
into that trap. But I was wondering your thoughts about that because sometimes you'll talk to people that are working at these corporations that say are Indian run or are
Mhm.
Mexican run if they are in the construction business, and we get caught up
Mhm.
in that stereotypes that exist and not versus understanding the differences and celebrating the differences, we get caught up in the trap of our own biases.
Yes, yes, that is an Achilles heel. I mean, that is it's commonplace, I should say. Um, we're living
I
what
think
I
we
was.
have more things
Mhm.
that are similar than we have that are different,
Mhm. Yes.
and to elaborate on what Mark was saying to me, I wanted to jump in because you mentioned something that was extremely important to me,
Mhm.
getting back to these tests, standardized tests. I think
Mhm.
that because of the way the man got everything set up,
Right.
someone, and this is
Mhm.
why I was going back to women in education running the thing, someone has decided that home economics, auto shop, how to type, how to balance a checkbook, how to, do certain things, skills, laundry, what have you, right? That, okay, those things are not necessary in school. They can be taught at home. And that was
Mhm.
great when it was my generation because, yes, mom was home, dad was working. But now, with both parents working, those things need to go back into the school system. And my friend Kevin and I, my drummer, we was talking about this before. It's like back in the day when you had all of those skills, you didn't necessarily come out not knowing anything. Now it's
Mhm.
all technology, right? My daughter's 13, 14, 15, my other was
Yes.
17, all technology, right? And that's
Yes.
great. But we've taught them those other skills that you mentioned because we knew they're
Mhm.
going to need them. How to cook when you go to college, how to do this. My daughter's driving, how to change the oil, how to do the gas, this and that, whatever,
Mhm.
right? And to elaborate on what Mark was saying before, I know for a fact he's one of the gentlemen that marks these tests. And he's always telling me, yes, that's what he does, but he doesn't agree with it.
Right.
And I
Yes.
think if we had a powerful lobbyist of women,
Mhm.
whether they're homeschooled in a public school, and they went somewhere and said, listen, we're going to break this thing down. Because we all know
Mhm.
the woman is the strongest spirit on
Mhm.
the planet, bar
Mhm.
none. It's not even close. It's the
Mhm.
woman. The woman.
Mhm.
It's the woman. Everything comes from the woman. So why are we being educated by people that are not that? That should be the top head. And then everything. Because the first thing a child does when he comes out of the womb is crawls up on his mother's breast. The
Mhm.
first thing.
Mhm.
That's the first thing a child learns how to do. I don't care what child, black, white, whatever.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
and that's what I'm talking about. That's why I'm so glad you stayed around, because what we try to do on this show is just give people different ways to look at things.
Yes.
Thank you, Mark, for your questions. You're
No
welcome to
problem.
stick around if you want. We're getting ready to jump into what Nomia said and let you answer the question about the standardized test, because I really want to hear what you have to say.
Mhm. And that's what
Yeah, for you.
you posing a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that that's the best measure. You just reminded me. I've done some part-time scoring for Pearson,
Mhm.
remote scoring for Pearson at the time. And this is scoring essays, typically middle school essays or primary middle school children's students essays. And I felt a little bit better about it, because I had some autonomy and basically scoring it holistically as opposed to this whole black and white thing. I had some say in it.
Right.
But I believe that we need to devise other measures. I mean, come on. um, this is 2022. Okay, we're in the millennium. We're in a new century. Why haven't we already done this? It's just akin to the question, the same question. Why have we not been working and educating remotely? We've had this technology within our midst, within our possession, for longer than we can remember. None of this is novel. We're just it's just being implemented now. Okay, there's no reason why we shouldn't be further ahead, especially here in this country. We're supposed to be the superpowers, right?
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Right. So I'm on my soapbox.
No, no, this is what this is for. This is exactly why I wanted you on this show. This is exactly why. Go
Same
for it.
transparency. If you
Go
ask me a
for it.
question, I will give
Yeah,
you
go for it.
the unadulterated truth about it, as I
Yes.
do. So,
Yes.
mhm,
You know,
mhm,
and again, thank you, Mark, because this was a subject that Mark and I always talk about: education. My audience is well educated. My audience is vast, all races, creeds, colors, genders, sexes. That's why I've been blessed to do this now for a minute and share all types of information with all types of people. It's such a gift, and I'm totally blessed. For everybody out there watching, I want you guys to know I appreciate you so much, because I learn something every week from watching your comments, reading your post on Facebook, and just having you guys be part of my life for this hour and a half. So Mark and I are truly grateful to everybody watching, hanging out with Namia Vasquez Scales. You guys can find her podcast and go check it out, the Recalibrating the Scales radio show. And doubling back on all of that, have you ever talked about this subject on your podcast?
yes. Well, education. I've had a three-part episode. It was homeschooling versus mainstream education, and
Mhm.
it was on my Blog Talk Radio platform, where I actually featured a guest. So I had some educate. There were three different episodes. Each episode had a different feature, different guest. One of which was the first of which was a homeschooling mom, who opened her own independent school. The second was a homeschooling father, um, and his thoughts and sentiments on homeschooling versus, you know, mainstream education. And then the third feature and third guest, he's around three different isolated dates and times, of course. Was I interviewed she was in the mental health in Chapel Hill, Carbo City schools, and she attested to the pressure, particularly on the high school level here, because they could seem to go from 0 to 100, as opposed to maybe adopting the international educational way of doing things, where you start rolling out maybe the challenging stuff in earlier grade levels and don't wait till the boom at the end once you hit freshman year. No, you don't wait. It's a progression over time, which is why you go in other countries, they've already done algebra in middle school. They've already done we've already done these things because of their curricular structure is night and day ours. So I think I'm probably segueing off topic with that. But But
No,
yes,
that's dope, though.
yes, I've had episodes on that, 3-part episodes on that subject.
You know
And
what I
was there
just
something
saw?
else that you?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I know. I thought it was maybe another question.
Well,
Was
Yeah,
actually,
I
George,
was
if
just
I
reading,
featured that
Mark.
and
I was just
featured?
reading some of the comments, and and you guys are blowing up the chat, man, and I appreciate that. But there was a senseless killing over the weekend or something. Did I miss something, Mark? A
oh, he was
killing?
talking about the killing of Omar Laki, and that I believe was sometime back and everything. But I'll have to double check on that and everything, just to double check that we're on top of whatever is going
Yeah,
on. But I did see
yeah.
that George the Funk Vinci had mentioned something that I'd love to hear maybe Nomia's thoughts about, which is vocational education, because a lot of times we used to have that as part of our education system, and it seems like it's disappeared. I don't know where plumbers are even getting trained these days and everything, but I was just wondering your thoughts about that.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. I'm so glad I stuck around. I just
I
had a
told you.
conversation with my son.
I told you.
Well, this morning, I had a conversation with my son. He's in Civil Air Patrol. Okay. And within Civil Air Patrol, there's something called, there's a team, competitive team called Cyber Patriots. So they're learning, on one side of it, he's learning aviation at an early age. I said, Max, you went to ground school, which would have cost you thousands of dollars, for that classroom education, but you didn't pay, it was complimentary to you. Cyber Patriots, they're learning cybersecurity, on a team level. It's from, middle school through high school level. Now he opted out of, continuing with the team, but I think I'm going to mandate that he revisit it, because he came to me one day and said that my oldest sister, told him, "Oh, I don't have a skill." She said, "I don't have a skill," and he said, "Mom, do I have a skill?" I'm like, "Well, I answered the question, but that was then, because his feelings were hurt, and it's like, well, you really, I think what she tried to convey was, yeah, you have to have some sort of trade, you have to have something under your belt if you're not going to do, say, college, if you're going to take a different path, what have you. Yeah, you do have to have a skill. You have to have skills, plural, in this world. So that was then. That was months ago. So fast forwarding to this morning, he asked me about a desktop computer. I said, why do you need a desktop computer? If you were in Cyber Patriots again, then maybe we could revisit getting a desktop computer. I said, but if you're just using it for recreation, I said, we have one. But if you want me to buy another one, there's no point.
Yeah.
So that's, in the incentive. And I told him, I said, he's like, well, I don't want to do cyber. That's not what my life path is. I said, it doesn't have to be. I said, let me show you some job descriptions. I know, because I've been actually in the market for new opportunity, and I've been applying to some things. I said, I don't have a CS degree. I started off in engineering, but I didn't stay there. I've segued into communication, which is in my heart and soul. Um, I think I should have stuck with engineering, though, being honest. Um, but what I told him, I said, even though I'm not in a technical field, I still have to have these skills, because it comes up. Do you know this system? Do you know C++? Do you know Python? I said, all of this is going to come up, and it's going to bite you later. Okay. So I'm going to mandate that he get back into Cyber Patriots. Okay. Because I said, you're going to need those cybersecurity, those computer skills later. Doesn't matter that if you don't want to go IT, you're still going to have to know IT stuff. Just like you're going to have to know. I say, with me, I said my background consists of sales. It consists of recruiting. These are all collective skills. Okay, your skill set has to be vast and varied, just to apply for a specific thing. So yeah, we need to reintroduce these trades and all. We need those skills. Okay, what is it? Home ec, shop, all of that, because not every child
Excuse me.
wants to go to college. Maybe they just want to get certification. That's okay. That's okay. And no two snowflakes are alike.
It was, somebody is saying it was Wednesday. A gentleman was shot
Yeah,
Thank you,
that's what I was
George.
just going to say is that I just did some research. It was on Wednesday morning. Another case like George Floyd, Omar Laki was shot and killed by Minneapolis police on Wednesday in
Oh,
the morning doing a no-knock raid. And so they were definitely having that happen. So we just had the George Floyd case, and now this 22-year-old man who apparently was sleeping.
oh, that was the guy that was laying in his bed, right? He was just
Yes,
laying there. I
yes,
saw that. Oh my God,
Mm.
that's horrible.
yeah.
Well, we'll pray for him and his
Yes.
family, and we know the outcome. Namia, you did a perfect segue. You didn't even realize how great you really, really are when you said mathematics. We're going to segue into our Black History segment of the show today. We're going to talk about what's the name of that show, Mark?
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures.
Hidden
The
Figures.
three, or
Yeah.
there were more, but these three powerful ladies. Okay,
Mhm.
Katherine G. Johnson, Mary Jackson, and Dorothy Vaughan. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you that haven't seen the movie, I suggest you watch it. It's Black History Month. Put down whatever, the Game Boy, and watch this movie. Right, Mark?
Exactly.
Right.
Need to definitely watch this movie, and I'm trying to pull up those pictures that I loaded up and everything. But if you want
That's
to tell a little
cool.
bit about that history while we wait and for these pictures to pull up.
And while you're pulling those pictures up so eloquently, I will tell you, you know, Katherine G. Johnson was a genius. A genius. She was a mathematical genius. So was Mary Jackson, and so was Dorothy Vaughan. From the South, these ladies managed to become integral parts. The rocket ships would not have flown without them. And we're just now giving them their just due. They were treated very badly, even though they had to do their jobs. They were not allowed to use the facilities and had to go far away, carrying heavy, heavy books. They were oftentimes left out of important meetings and loops that would have put us well ahead. But until the very end, they didn't realize their worth. They were denied promotions after promotions. And if you guys want to really do the research on these people, I read some of their excerpts, not the movie, from just, comments. And I was completely blown away. And the first thing I thought about was my mother. My mother, was a housekeeper, a maid, and worked for some wealthy people, but she also was very independent. She was a Mason in the Eastern Star. And I thought to myself, wow, these women are mirroring my mom, with the struggle. I just want your thoughts on those women, Nomia, while Mark is working on this.
Wow. Well, what I would like to say, I actually want to piggyback on something that you said. You
Oh, go
mentioned
ahead.
that
Knock it out.
how we could have been further along. I'm all about progression. Sometimes you have to know when to, like I said, in life, we all know. I know I'm preaching to the choir, when to hold and when to fold. Um, Now, according to
Can
the
you move
film
up a little
depiction,
closer to your microphone?
yes,
Just a pinch.
it's
Yeah, so
like,
we can hear you a little bit better.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes in life, we're synchron. I know we're synchronized in thought. We have to know when to hold and when to fold. According to the film depiction of that movie, I had the pleasure of seeing the film. Um, I don't know which character, but Kevin Costner's character, basically had good sense enough to say, okay, to bring, to basically throw out the rule book when it came to the using the facilities. Thank God, because that was ridiculous that she had to run over the river and through the woods to use the restroom to relieve herself, or in her exact words. Um, if we can just know when to just go ahead and let's just go ahead and blur these lines, okay? Because let's put cast aside divisiveness right now, because we really need to get said task or said agenda done, okay? So if that means that we're going to have to hire as someone who's African American, or someone who is of a different persuasion, who's Latino, who's Indian, who's Asian, what have you, who's African, then why not do that? Okay. Okay. We see it in sports. Okay, but we need to, if we could, if we would have adopted that ideology long years ago, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. We would have been light years ahead. But we've got in our own way. We have a tendency as people, as mankind, boy, do we get in our own way. I'm guilty of it, even. And I have to check myself and say, you know what? We need to just cast that aside, whatever that said thing is right now, and focus on the agenda at hand. I hope that answered the question.
Totally. I told Mark
You
about it.
still
We were
there?
going to go in a
Mhm.
different direction, and then I actually watched the movie, and then I was like, you know what, Mark, we got to do this because, you know, Mary Jackson, first female Afro American, supervisor and engineer, 1979, Langley Women's Program Manager, and she fought for rights for women at NASA. Dorothy Vaughan, first Afro American supervisor specialist on the frontier, the first real IBM computer, electronic computer that was actually helping crunch numbers. And she actually programmed the computer to crunch the numbers. One of the most brilliant minds at NASA. They dedicated a building to her. And of course, we all know about Katherine G. Johnson, mathematical genius. All right. Now, these women overcame the Southern struggle. They overcame the struggle against women, against black women. They still had to deal with their families at the time, the insecurity of how black men were being treated. They had to go home and corral that energy. These women are truly some serious freaking heroes. You know what I'm saying? And again, Black history on this show will be taught at the end of every show. We're going to dedicate at least 5 to 10 minutes on it because they're trying to take this out of the school system. And we can't have that. We have our own platform. Yo, this is what it's about. And I'm so glad you stuck around, Namia, because you've actually enlightened a lot of my guests as well as myself. And we're going to dedicate this show to these women. And I hope you guys out there understand that this show is for everybody. I love everybody out there. And we just try to make it light and keep it real, man. Thank you, Mr. Mark Lee. I'm going to give Normia. Mark, you have one last question for Normia before we get out of here?
Yeah, I was scared to get out of here, and I know Mia's going to do a great job. She's been a fantastic guest that you've had today and everything.
I
But I
told you.
was just scared to really mention really quickly that I was actually just saw a news special yesterday where they were talking about the percentage of women that are in NASA right now, because it used to be a predominantly male dominated field. It is still predominantly male, but they were given a lot of statistics saying that I think it's like around 33 or 34% women that are involved in NASA and space travel right now. And I think there's supposed to be like they were highlighting some of the women that are involved, including the woman that's going to call the launch of the Artemis project, which is the next one going up. There's also a sister that is among those that will be on the landing party for the next moon trip. And there are a couple of others that are in positions as well. So it's good to see women making advances, but they do make up more than 50% of the population. So we're still not at true equality. But I'd love to know what Nomia's thoughts about that are as I get ready to get out of here and let y'all take over the whole end of the show the way that you do a great job of, because it's your show and you're amazing.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh,
Appreciate you, bro. I love you, man.
mhm.
That's why I love that brother. Mark is dope.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so he was posing the question about the question was
Equality.
about whether or not it could be achieved, or what my
I guess
thoughts.
just in general, your thoughts about
Mhm.
the progress in that
Well,
field.
well, we have made advances. Women have made advances. We've proven what we can accomplish over time and space, throughout time and space. Yes, we can. Yes, we're capable. Um, as a society, we've collectively we've definitely proven what strides could be made, even in the face of adversity. Um, but there is a flip side to it, though. Can women do it all day long? Should we be credited for our efforts? Absolutely. I believe the credit is warranted where credit is due. But when and then there's the masculine, and then there are the roles outside of that. So, which is it's a completely different topic. Um, so I've been told to say my sentiments are pretty antiquated, in the words of one of my best friends, when it comes to, I'm a little old school, I'm a little old fashioned when it comes to certain things. Um, I believe that, there's in the career sector, yes, it can be done, as women, what we've accomplished, how we've progressed, and so forth. When it comes down to the personal realm, between trying to keep, there's a distinction between the career and the personal realm. This is simply the simplest way for me to state it. When it comes to male-female dynamics, which is a different topic. And I know I'm segueing again. You still there?
Good, because again, I'm so grateful that you stuck around and you agreed to come on. And these topics are forever in stone now, because all my shows are stored on YouTube. So what I'm trying to do, Mark and I, in our own little small, tiny way, catalog education for people to go back and say, hey, I saw this on Funk from the Front Seat, or let me go back and see what the guest said on Funk from the Front Seat, and try to apply some of that, because I've had so many great coaches, you being another coach in my life, from Tish to Chrissy, to my health coach, Victor Taylor. I've been literally, and my biggest coaches have been all the P-Funk heads and the funk heads that support the music thing I do. And we love each other, and we see each other at the ball and this and that, and we stay involved in each other's lives. All you guys out there have been coaches to me. I just want to say that personally, because we all need each other. And me, I'm going to give you the last word before we get out of here. But my thing is, we all need each other. And I'm so glad you agreed to stay with us and join us today. I'm going to give you the last word. In your opinion, and just however you want to say it, what can we do as human beings to become more empathetic towards our suffering? And that's the.
What can we do to become more empathetic? I would have to say, basically channeling your compassion. I definitely believe it has to. There's a very spiritual element woven into that, but channeling your compassion. There are ways to do that. There are tools, there are techniques. Get out in nature. Spend more time at rest. Spend some time meditating. Spending time with self, and just basically doing some self-evaluating, asking what your intentions are as a person. Okay, because not everyone's intentions are the same. They're not all sound. Those would be just a few suggestions that I would make. So.
Yo, that's amazing. Thank you so much. It's been beautiful hanging out with you today. And if you guys get a chance out there, follow her. She's on, Facebook, and, she's got her podcast going, the Recalibrating the Scales radio show. And she's also, a good friend of mine that I met down here in North Carolina. She'll be back. And you're going to come back and visit us a lot, right?
I will come back.
Okay, that's awesome. You have a great day. Thank you so much, my producer, Mr. Mark Lee. We get ready to get out of here. Funk from the Front Seat. Thank everybody for watching. Snap your fingers like this. Texas. All my peeps down there in Texas, I love you. Normia Vasquez Scales was with us today, y'all. Every woman, Black History Month. Let's go! New York City, Detroit, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, Ohio, Kentucky, Oklahoma, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. Where you at? Florida. What's up, Leroy? California. Hey. Nevada. Purple Hearts. Oregon. Michigan. Woo! Canada. Hawaii. Samoan. Doing the humpy hump. Some of y'all ain't clapping. Some of y'all ain't clapping. You can snap. There you go. Woo! Canada, what's up? Dubai. We love y'all out there. It's all good. Our special guest today, Lamia, that's Scales. Thank you, sweetie. From the front seat. We love you. China, Russia, Egypt, Germany, Australia. I love you. Special shout out, P-Funk Radio. I love y'all. Thanks for staying active on the chat line. Great show today. George the Funka Vinci, Sonia Murphy, Simon was in the house, Dr. Brookenstein was in the house. I love y'all. Woo! What's up, Kayla? What's up, Maya? I love y'all. Shaka Khan, y'all. By the way, she should be in the Hall of Fame. I'll give you my Super Bowl picks next Saturday. Y'all know which way I'm leaning, though, right? Woo! I want y'all to have a feel-good day. I know it's snowing. I know the weather's bad in some parts. I know we got a rough time, but yo, you got love right here. We got nothing but love for you. We got you. All around the world for the fun. All the first responders. I love y'all out there, Sonia. I love you, Mark. Everybody out there that's taking care of people. I got you. All the teachers, you need a raise. I got you. Firemen, police, we got you. All our military people, stay safe. We get ready to get into some shit. Y'all be careful. Shout out to the United States Olympic team, all right? Let's go get some medals, y'all. Peace and love to anybody that lost somebody this month. We love you. Shout out to Oak City Music Collective. What's up, Diego? Woo, it's hot. What a blessing to be. What a blessing to be, y'all. Push it up to God, all right? Let's let him handle this stuff. Funk from the front seat. 9 on the Grind TV. My producer, Mr. Mark Lee. You back there jamming, bro. Come on to speed, Mark. Come on and jam with me. Come on and jam with me, bro. Woo. There you go. That was up. Woo. Nothing but Black history for the women, y'all. Nothing but love. This is how we do on Funk from the Front Seat, y'all. Woo! Nothing but a party. Y'all stay safe, all right? Woo! Man, shout Tony Cam. I can't wait to see you, bro. Love you, man. George the Funka Vinci, love you. Curtis Wilcox, we got that show coming up about ufology, bro. I ain't forget about it. We're going to see y'all next week, all right? Woo! Hey! Let's get out of here, Mark.
Let's get on out of here.
But Mark ain't ready to go. All right, we staying.
Now we ready to go now.